Hi, everyone. So hopefully you can hear me. My name is Rebecca Lehue, and I am a library associate 3 here at Auburn University Libraries. I work in the Collections Discovery and Resource Sharing Department. And Clint, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Clint Bellinger. I'm a software developer in our IT department here at Auburn University Libraries.
Okay, fantastic. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And today we're going to be talking about how um, our experience with OpenAthens as we implemented it during last year. So yeah, our webinar is a customer case study, how OpenAthens supports lifelong learning and empowers communities. And so let's see, there we go. So a little bit about Auburn University. We have, yeah, more than just sports. I mean, we're known for our football and different like basketball as well. Um, but we are like the center hub of campus as the library. We have 3 different branch locations. There is the LADC, which is the Library of Architecture, Design, and Construction. There is the VetMed Library, which helps faculty and students at the College of Veterinary Medicine. And there is the main library branch, which is the Ralph Brown Drawn Library. We serve over 30,000 students and more than 10,000 employees, and that number is growing each year as we hire new faculty and staff to come join us. And yeah, more students come in, and there's a constant fluctuation because of new semesters starting, graduation, stuff like that. So we also have millions of local volumes here at our different locations, and more resources are moving online as we focus more on ebooks and journals and databases and getting those together. So supporting lifelong learning. Um, As an R1 as a as a land grant R1 institution, we have missions and values, and we're working on a 10-year strategic plan at the moment that is aligning with the university goals, which includes exceptional students experience, impactful research and creative scholarship, and catalytic engagement. And what we've done with Open Athens in implementing it has affected all of those areas because we want to make sure that the students can access our resources so they can continue doing research. Same thing with faculty. And that way they can also get, with creative scholarships, they can get grants and stuff like that. So yeah, a strong focus on supporting faculty, staff, and students and others in the surrounding Auburn community with information resources and outreach programs. So with providing access to our patron groups, we had to break down like 4 different groups that we were wanting to look at. There was active students, faculty, and staff, walk-in patrons to the library who want to browse our resources, Auburn University alumni, which we've started focusing more on since I first started actually here back in 2020. And then different community outreach programs such as the Alabama Prison Arts and Education Project. So here are a couple of graphs of the users that we were able to register and pull together in the Open Athens system. With the students, faculty, and staff over here on this bar graph, um, we had 19,820 people, which was about 89%. Alumni was 23 people, and that's 10%. AP, AEP was about 20 people, which was 0.9%. And for the walk-in, there was about 1 person, which is about 0.005%. So that's, yeah, breaking down those 2 graphs. And so introducing Open Athens to our libraries. So it was back in, yeah, about 2024, early 2024, and we completed around maybe August or September. Clint can probably correct me on that. But yeah, we migrated from a locally hosted proxy server to Open Athens. And that involved, we set up a team internally here in the library with people from the Collections Discovery and Resource Sharing Department and IT, which is where Clint is a part of. And we met with personnel from Open Athens to help us implement the different authentication links for our different resources so we could ensure that patrons still had access to those resources and subscriptions. Because when you go into a system, you have to log in and make sure that they can authenticate you that you're part of the university and you've got access to our resources as part of our licensing. So there were a few different stages of troubleshooting with that, but yeah, going in and changing different links to make sure that everything redirected correctly. But yeah, as far as that goes, it was a rather smooth transition. So for questions in determining our patron groups, we had to ask ourselves who has access according to our licenses, because certain licensing dictates who can have, yeah, who can open and access those certain resources. For example, we have different licensing that are very specific to our alumni users and that are not really accessible to anybody else. And yeah, our next question that we asked was what patron info, such as name, email, and other information is available for these users to identify them, and what kind of access best serves each of these groups. Okay, I'm going to pass it along to Clint.
Um, Great. So what I'm looking at as sort of the technical side of this equation is um, what did we have to go through for our these four particular patient groups to to get them working in the system and some of the challenges and takeaways that we had from that. Our main group is our faculty, staff, and students. They have access to most of our digital collections, subscriptions, and we know a lot about their account information. You know, all of their account information is on our central login system on campus. Um, but we did want to make changes as we were moving through this system because previously, if you were located on campus, we had sort of IP authentication by campus. You didn't have to log in at all. Um, we decided to start moving everyone into the single sign-on system here on campus, which OpenAthens made a lot easier for us to make that transition. But especially wanted to do that for reporting because what we can do is capture things like which department different pages are coming in from and use that to graph usage data later. Um, Another one of our patron groups is the much smaller group is our walk-in patrons. So we're not a public library, we are a university library. And that means that we don't have as many walk-in patrons as, say, a public library would. Um, but it is still very important to our outreach mission to make sure that local users still are able to come in and do searching and research. Um, sort of in guidance with our subscriptions and with our licenses, we have a single terminal set up near the main branch where people can come in. They don't need to log in, um, and that permission is just granted by the IP address on that machine. So this is another one of those groups that it's simple to set up. Once the configuration is there, it's sort of working seamlessly for those users. Um, uh, the alumni patrons, though, are quite a different story. And really, a lot of the work we did in transitioning to this new system was about improving our reach to our alumni patrons. So although most of our digital subscriptions are limited to active students, faculty, and staff, um, some subscriptions do permit us to allow access to our alumni users. The main issue, though, is that our alumni are not in our central people system on campus. Um, Instead, where that data lives, where our info about our alumni, um, we get it from our alumni organization here on campus, who mainly has the contact info for those folks, name and email, that kind of thing. So as we're getting to specifically our alumni users, we want to sort of go through the process that we went talk about the process that to getting them set up and some of the changes that we made. So as I mentioned, we have sparse info about the alumni. We have their name, year of graduation, and we might have an email. Um, in our old system, there was not really a viable way to have each alumni register themselves or choose their own credentials. Instead, we were forced to do kind of a workaround where you may have seen this maybe with paying an old bill at some point. You had to know your ID from a physical mailing, find your account ID somewhere. And that's how we were sort of authenticating people. Um, and because of that, those hoops to jump through, we didn't have a whole lot of uptake with alumni users using our resources. So getting them set up in Open Athens, first of all, the list of resources that alumni can access is pretty easy to configure in Open Athens with permission sets. So we have an alumni specific permission set that just has the short list of resources that they can access. And they're not using the campus single sign-on because they're not in our main system. So it was necessary to create separate personal accounts with Open Athens for our alumni. Um, and what this allowed is that because we're registering folks by their email address, they'll get Open Athens will send them an email invitation with a one-time code that they can log in and set their own password. And so from the future, they're logging in with their own email address and a password they set, which is a lot more convenient for many of our users. Part of this was working directly with our alumni association because they have the data. They were able to provide us with the known list of graduates and their email address contact information. Um, Noting that though some special permission was required here, previously our proxy server was locally hosted, whereas Open Athens being cloud-based, we needed special permission to make sure that all the sensitive contact data that we're sending about our alumni is going to be handled safely with Open Athens. And, of course, we got those assurances. And then part of this is establishing a feedback loop with our alumni organization. So as we register people, we might get emails saying, hey, this is the wrong person. I was never a Auburn alumni. You got the wrong email address, things like that. We submit that back to our alumni organization so they can keep their list up to date. So a bit about how the adding users actually looked. So in Open Athens, for personal accounts, you can do batch uploads. So up to 5,000 records at a time. We sort of arrange the data in spreadsheets with the fields that are required. And Open Athens also provides sort of a preset spreadsheet with all the fields ready to be filled out. So it made that process quite easy. Um, Even so, we had a little bit of a messy start with an alumni. Um, we had about 150,000 alumni that we had the email addresses for, so quite a big institution with a lot of history. And it turns out if you send out 100,000 invites all at once, you might get feedback all at once. And so what we learn is, first of all, we have alumni going back to the 1920s on our list. And we found ourselves having that first week fielding technical questions over email, particularly with older users that may not be as familiar with some of the technology that we're using. Um, Another quirk, anytime you have a data set this big, you're going to find quirks in the data that you didn't expect. Um, we had sometimes when we were creating accounts that Open Athens would warn us that a handful of these accounts were duplicate emails. And at first we couldn't figure out why would two different alumni have the same email address? Well, it was a couple that had both graduated from Auburn, got married, and now share an inbox. And so because they were both on the email invite list, they both got a registration email. Um, Luckily, like I said, Open Athens will give us a flag whenever that situation occurs, so we have a heads up. And finally, the other thing we didn't expect, that invitation expires after 90 days. So this was in August that we did a lot of our main alumni registrations. And in January in the new year, we definitely had several people that decide, I'm going to go back to that email that was sent 4 months ago and see if I can register. And so we've had a handful of accounts this month that even to now people are going back and registering, and so we're having to resend those invites, and but we've been handling it pretty well. Um, and I'll leave it to Rebecca later to talk about the results from that alumni transition. But first, let me talk about the last of the four main groups that we're talking about, getting them set up in our system. This is a community group called the Alabama Prison Arts and Education Project, APAEP. These are incarcerated students, a very small classroom size, maybe 10 to 12 students. Um, and they we have a program to help them to get a college degree while they are incarcerated. Because of this, they have very limited internet access, and part of the setting them up in Open Athens is to make sure that um, they can only access the short list of URLs that they've been approved for. And one of the things is to add Open Athens itself as one of the allowed addresses that they can go to. Um, it turns out for these particular groups, we're able to get them set up in our central people system, but in a separate group. And so them being added to Open Athens doesn't require any more manual work from us. As long as their accounts are getting created in our main system, they end up over in Open Athens with the correct permissions. All right. And now I'll hand it back to Rebecca to talk about the results of what of uh, moving these patron groups into Open Athens and updating the configuration how we want to handle them.
Okay, so the results of Open Athens implementation by patron group. So we have a few success stories and takeaways from each patron group that we did. The first one is students, faculty, and staff. So it was a very seamless transition for them to the new authentication system from the old proxy server that we had. A lot of them didn't notice that they had to use a single sign-in after they did it. It was a one and done thing. So that was beneficial. And then we have the reporting features by department here on the in this chart. We got the library administration, forestry, wildlife, psychological sciences, English, and there's a lot more. So you could see over time, we have more people that are registering and yeah, that are having a good experience with it. So with our walk-in patrons, as Clint mentioned, they didn't really have to experience a sign-in with Open Athens, and they didn't really have to understand what it was. They could just walk in and use our terminal that we have near our circulation desk at our main library, and then they have two other ones, I think, at LADC and Vet Med, where they can browse books, look for resources online that they want to download or check out or read that they wouldn't otherwise have access to. So yeah, it was a seamless transition for them as well from our previous proxy server to Open Athens authentication. For the success stories and takeaways from our alumni users, again, this was a big group. Clint did excellent work on onboarding them into our Open Athens servers and making sure that they had access to our resources that we have. We have a LibGuide that we created years ago where we have different resources that they can access. And we were able to go into those as well, those links on that guide, and adjust them to from the original proxy URL to the new Open Athens one so they can have continued access. So we received and resolved over 100 support emails within the first week of launch. A lot of questions of alumni asking, where do I get this information? How do I sign in? And yeah, again, we would have to redirect them to the invitation email that they had if they lost it or somehow deleted it because sometimes they don't check their email or it ends up in the spam folder or something like that, then we would have to resend it to them and we were able to get those problems fixed. So we had over 2,000 alum that activated their account and began using Open Athens for information discovery to continue to access those resources that are listed on our LibGuide. And it's much easier for them to log in now than it was compared to the previous proxy server system. Again, it's like a one sign in and done. And now we are able to continue to connect our alum users to our library subject specialists for assistance in different academic fields of research. If they're looking for particular resources in, say, computer science, they want to learn more about AI, we can direct them to subject specialists that specialize in those fields and can point them to the right resources. So lessons from onboarding our alumni users into the Open Athens system. Um, One suggestion would be that our alumni association or a similar campus organization, depending on where you're at, can distribute emails to alumni ahead of time to notify them of the launch, that they're going to be changing things, and to help field questions of how do I maintain my access? Is it going away? No, it's not going away. We're changing to a new system. Okay, how do I access the new system? Um, Kind of helping guide them to continue to access those resources that we have for them. And another thing that we would want to look at is to utilize the Where Are You Coming From screen that OpenAthens offers. As our user base continues to grow, as we get more alumni, as people graduate, as we get more students coming in each semester, as we have more faculty and staff coming in as new hirees, kind of pointing them in the direction of how to use OpenAthens. We would also recommend if you're looking at doing OpenAthens implementation that you add counts for alumni users or any large user group in small batches in waves over a longer period of time versus in very, very large batches. And we would also want to establish a richer frequently asked questions page on the university library website or the main university website to kind of explain to users, hey, we're moving to Open Athens. This is where you can find more information about how to access your resources. If you have any issues, you can contact this particular group, and that would mitigate confusion on access from alumni users. So moving to success stories from the Alabama Prison Arts and Education Project. We had our first graduates back in 2023 and 2024. 11 students received their degrees from Auburn University under this program in December, on December 16th, 2023. And we're hoping that more success stories are to come from the Alabama Prison Arts and Education Project as we continue to get more resources here at the library, and we really take advantage of Open Athens that we've implemented. So that is our presentation. If you have any questions or comments, now's the time to ask.
Yeah, no, perfect. Thank you, Clint and Rebecca. That's really good. So yeah, any questions, please do put them into the Q&A box. I find it really interesting to see the types of end users using OpenAthens, and you've got a real nice range going on there. I did just wonder though, I saw in the alum users, you kind of had their graduation date. Is there any, or do you use that data for seeing any trends in if there's a certain graduation year or time span where they're the ones that heavily adopted the service out of those sort of 2000 that did activate their accounts?
Yeah, we're definitely seeing more of the recent users that are, as a trend with people probably more familiar with technology. Um, but we are looking to get into some of the graphing that may come later because we can graph, so we have separated by graduation year and also by graduation decade to help with some of the batch handling. And yeah, we are still collecting data on that, but it would be really fascinating to see, like which resources are being used by which cohorts. So maybe in a future version of this presentation.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that there could be some really interesting insights because I'm not aware of people reporting on that on the alumni access much. I know people do it, but yeah, to actually get some insights is really interesting.
I'm not seeing any questions in the chat at the moment, but I do also want to add these are some links that we put together. If I can, there we go. These are some suggestions that we had for further reading. I can also drop these links in the chat so you guys can take a look at our LibGuide that we put together where it actually has specific instructions on how our alumni users can go in and access their Open Athens account. So if you guys needed examples as you try to implement your own Open Athens system, um, that is a resource to look at. And then we do have the Alabama Prison Arts program with different information about like the student graduations.
One coming in here from Jeff. Hi all. Are there any user cases or data gathering you are able to support that you didn't anticipate?
Hmm, that's a good question. Um, I think so far it's probably about what we anticipated. Um, but as we're sort of looking at the possible fields that we have in our central people system, sort of we use Active Directory. There are a lot of different fields that we could be including in the reporting. And I think as we're starting to look at our own data, we are looking to enrich, add additional fields, um, like aspirationally, for instance, our alumni, um, for a department, we just list their department as alumni to help with reporting, but it would be possible to gather information from alumni, possibly about which field of study they originally worked in, because then it would be good to graph alumni usage by that as well. But no, I think so far the sort of the use case that the folks at our library are excited about is to see which departments on campus are actively using our resources, and possibly which departments are not as much using our resources that we may be paying for, and that we should reach out to them and encourage them and get them more involved in our work.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've been in a couple of discussion groups during the during Access Lab and about reporting and data. And yeah, we like to talk about data and leading to successes and the good outcomes, but also there is that element of it. Well, actually, let's use it to see what's missing or what's low usage, and then how can we use that to, help engage and react to that data to just in the end to make sure everyone knows what's there and to help everyone out. So yeah, I think that is another side to look at it. Often people think, oh, low data, what am I going to do with that? But actually, it's telling you something. So yeah, can it help tell a story?
Yeah, definitely. I thought I'd mention, we talked a lot about supporting our users with technical questions, especially our alumni users. And there's a particular screen in OpenAthens that has become my favorite screen. Is per user, you can see an activity log of the last time they logged in, the last time they failed to log in, and all of these things. And so sometimes we'll get a support email and I can send them back, oh, I see you actually did get to log in at 8:25 last night. Let us know if you need anything else. It makes us seem omniscient. Oh, any of the any of the prisoners gone on to MA level studies with you? Um, that could be a good question. I know that, part of the situation here is that um, there's some like even in the press release that we linked, there's some anonymizing happening for these students. And so we plan to check with that would be a good follow-up to see if they can let us know if any of those prisoners have gone on um, to register for Auburn at a different level. Um, yeah, I don't think we could probably share exact details, but in general terms, that would be good to know. Even, I don't know if we would be able to collect data possibly about recidivism rates. We have a very small sample size, but yeah, that's the kind of thing we want to ask in the future.
A little bit longer. Yeah, you can call it there. Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you, Clint. Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you everyone who attended this session. Yeah, it's really good. I hope you have a good rest of your day. And yeah, this session is recorded, so you will be able to watch it back whenever you like. Okay. Oh, hold on. We've just got a last question come through. So this is from Larry. What advice would you give other library teams looking to be more proactive to state prison systems for educational services?
Hmm. Um, we had our library had such a small part of what the Alabama Prison Arts Project is involved with that um, that may be a good follow-up, Larry. If you want an answer to that, maybe I can reach out later and get that answer for you. Because I think Rebecca and I were not involved whenever that project was first established here.
No,
That
no,
partnership.
I'm not too familiar with it other than like the data that we collected as far as like who's registering for it. But I do know there are other subject librarians in here that in Auburn University Library that actually they've worked closely with that program and have promoted it and like have worked with yeah, other personnel over there. So I think I'll see if I can do some digging and figure out which librarian that is, because there may be a couple, but yeah, their names escape me off the top of my head. But yeah, no, excellent question.
Yeah, I think that's as Field touched on. It's such a positive thing to hear and to see being done. It is like, I mean, yeah, however we can get that out there more, not just from obviously Open Apple's point, but from just that. Oh yeah, university supporting that way of learning is yeah, it's fantastic. Okay, I think that is now the end. So yes, I would say thank you again, Clint. Thank you again, Rebecca, and thank you all for attending. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers
Hi, all.
all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Bye.